Welcome to Boys in the Hood TV. Today we're going to be discussing the death of Big Psych from a Lueders Park Piru clique called Natural Born Players. Now for years, the war between the Compton Pirus and Compton Varrio 70 had been extremely violent. Years of shootouts and murders taking lives on both sides. Now Compton Varrio 70 had been at war with multiple cliques like the Lime Hood Pirus, the Lueders Park Pirus, MOB, and they were responsible for many murders. Now there was a clique associated with Lueders Park called the Natural Born Players, or NBP. Now this clique claimed the 1400 Harris block located in Lueders Park Hood. Now in the early 2000s, Compton Varrio had targeted the Ferguson family, which had multiple members from the NBP clique. Now this all stemmed from the murder of a CV70 member whose sister named Ricky had been killed by a Piru member. Now her death would lead to multiple Piru members being murdered over the next several years in retaliation. Now Corey Ferguson, aka Big Psych, was from NBP, and his family stayed on the 1400 block of Harris. Now his family's home was a known kicking spot for many natural born players from time to time. Now Big Psych was an active member of the Pirus from the start. Now over the years, he had been arrested numerous times for misdemeanors all the way to felonies. And in 2004, he was arrested on dope charges. But by 2006, the murder trial for Piru member Daryl White, who was killed by Compton Varrio, was taking place. And Big Psych, along with other members of Natural Born Players, would testify against the Compton Varrio, and their testimonies would help put away certain members of Compton Varrio who are connected with this murder. Now over the next few years, Big Psych will continue running the streets, selling dope, and beefing with members from CV70. But by 2011, he would get locked up for nearly 6 months, but eventually get released around February 2012. Now once out on the street, Big Psych would change his life. He would even enroll into college and start taking classes. He would even be seen making posts on Facebook, talking about having black people come together instead of killing each other. But what Big Psych didn't know was that he and his cousin from Natural Born Players had been greenlit by the Compton Varrio 70 for testifying in that murder case back in 2006. Now in August of 2012, a Compton Varrio 70 member known as Frisk would be released from prison. Now once out, Frisk would link up with other Compton Varrio members, which included Tone, and he would let them know that the Ferguson family had to go. Big Psych, his cousin Dewan, and another family member named Brandon all had been greenlit. Now Tone from Compton Varrio would let other members know that Big Psych is always outside of his family member's home on the 1400 block of Harris. So weeks later, on August 18, 2012, at around 7 p.m., the Ferguson family was having a small get-together at their home. Big Psych stood outside in the front yard, talking on his cell phone as other family members walked inside. Now up the driveway were family members playing dominoes by the garage. Now sometime later, as a few people stood in the front yard talking, a vehicle would be seen coming down Harris Street, which had members of Compton Varrio 70 inside. Now Big Psych was still on his phone talking when the car pulled up. That's when Frisk from Compton Varrio stepped out the car and walked up to Psych and telling Psych that he was looking to buy some weed. Now Psych did not recognize, nor did he know that Frisk was a member of Compton Varrio 70. As Big Psych turned his head, and that's when Frisk would pull out a .357 and shoot Psych right in the back of his head. Frisk would then walk up and stand over Psych and shoot him multiple times again before taking off running. Big Psych's family would come running from the backyard near the garage to see Psych land on the ground. Police and EMTs would arrive shortly after, and sadly, Corey Ferguson, aka Big Psych, was pronounced dead. He had suffered from 2 gunshot wounds to the head and 2 more shots to his body. Now detectives would interview multiple family members at the scene who would give a description of the shooter, that it was a short Hispanic male that had a hat on. Now police at the time, they were well aware of the violence between the CV70 members and the Piru members. So shortly after, they would take the family members downtown to the station, and they would show family members a photo lineup, which included Compton Varrio members in the lineup, and family members would identify and pick out Ricardo Venya, aka Frisk, as the shooter. Now in November 2012, Tone from CV70 would be arrested. And while in custody, he would tell police that he had info on the murder of Big Psych. He would tell officers that Frisk had bragged about shooting Psych in his front yard with the .357. Tone would eventually agree to wear a wire for a sting operation where he would go to approach Frisk to inquire about purchasing the .357, which had been used during the murder. Now, once the meeting took place, Frisk would tell Tom that he wasn't selling the 357, but he did have a 22 for sale. But afterwards, as Frisk drove down the street, the gang unit would move in and pull over Frisk. And inside the car, they would find a loaded 357 that they believed was the murder weapon. But once they ran the ballistics, the bullets would not match the bullets that were found in the body of Big Psych during the time of the murder. But that same 357 that was found in his car would match the murder of another Piru member named Rosan Gant. So eventually CV70 member Frisk would be arrested and charged with murder. Now during his trial, Tom from CV70 would testify against his own homies. Now during his testimony, he would tell the jury that the Compton Varrio members had targeted the Ferguson family in retaliation for his sister's death. He would also go on to ID David Guerrero, aka Evil, as the man who put the green light on the Ferguson family. But he would not be the only one to testify. Multiple other witnesses from the Ferguson family would take the stand and identify Frisk as the shooter. Now by the end of the trial, Ricardo Vena, aka Frisk from CV70, would be found guilty 2 counts of first-degree murder, and he would be sentenced to life without parole. Also, David Guerrero, who was already in prison for murder, would be found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. I would like to thank everybody for tapping in, and I'll see y'all next time.